Okay, it's still okay. There it goes. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the podcast. We're so very excited for you to tune in, and especially our special guest. But before we get started, I'm going to hand it over to Moana to kick everything off.
Aloha mai kako, everyone. Welcome to tonight of the Moana Nui podcast. Today we are on episode 73. So thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe and follow our show and hit the share button so other people can enjoy content as well. My name is Moana, and I'm the host of and founder of also a children's book author, the Adventures of the Aloha children's books, and publisher Wildcard Chronicles series here at Burning Spear Comics, and a champion of the BIPOC community and the wonderful creators within them. And with that said, I am going back to my co-host and woman Dana to provide her information and to tell us a little bit more before we bring her on.
Aloha. Well, hello everyone. I am Dana. I am a cosplay event and con staff photographer. You have probably seen my photographs with Dragon Con, MomoCon, Anime Week in Atlanta, and even with DC Comics. I am also a voice actor and event planner and a whole lot more. And we are so very excited for our upcoming guest that we're going to have on today's special episode today. And I am going to go ahead and introduce our guest. And before I hand it over to Moana to kick everything off. So, Allyssa A. Lewis is a creative and strategist and a career consultant and primetime television Emmy Award animator, most noted for her animation on over 75 episodes and promos of FX series Archer. She has created content for NBC, Discovery Channel, MTV, I Am Other, Animation Domination, Apple, San Diego Comic Con, Georgia Pacific Broadcasting, PBS, and Captain Planet's Planeteer movement. She has been in the animation industry for 14 years, animating on television shows, commercials, music videos, and independent films. So basically, we all know she started this at the age of 2. Okay. As a founder and executive director of Georgia's first and largest animation and resource staffing agency, My Animation Life, her team works to find creative strategies and solutions for both studios and independents. Creating Georgia's most inclusive animation map, calendar, and classified listings are just a few of the popular assets that My Animation Life provides to strengthen Georgia's animation industry. So now we're very excited to have our very special guest, Emmy award-winning animator, Allyssa A. Lewis. Everybody, help us welcome her to join us today. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for that warm welcome.
We are so excited. I mean, we are in the presence of greatness, and we are, I mean, so stoked. Of course, I've known Allyssa for a few years, but of course, several of you in our audience, and including Moana, this is your first time meeting her, and especially reading that bio, you know how much of a dynamo and an amazing person she is, but you're only getting a tip of that iceberg. So we're looking forward for y'all to get to know her more and learn more about this magnificent unicorn we have on our show today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I love being here with you both. I feel honored to be able to be on this podcast.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for taking the time. We know you're a busy woman.
Yes, that's right. Yes, we appreciate every minute. So we will not waste any more time. We'll get things kicked off and started. With Dana and I, we like to start the show off with the Piko, which is the Hawaiian word for your origin story. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and how your creative passions emerged.
I am technically from Brooklyn, New York, but I only lived there for 2 weeks. My family was living in Kaiserslautern, Germany. And so they came to America, had me here, and then went right back to Germany. And so I spent the first few years of my life there, and then we traveled around a lot. My dad was in the military, so we were stationed all over the place, country to country, state to state. I often had no idea where I was, but it was fine because I was used to going to different schools and meeting new people. I knew I wanted to be an animator since I was 2 years old. I watched Bugs Bunny being drawn to life. This hand came in and started drawing him. And that was the first time I thought, oh, somebody does have to make this show. I didn't even think about that. I knew about jobs, and I told my mother that that's what I was going to do. And she said, oh, you're going to be a cartoonist? That's the term we knew. And I said, yes. And I just never turned away from it. I just kept going. I tried to take art classes as we traveled, but often that wasn't provided at the schools I went to. So the extent of activities I did for art class would be coloring book activities and here and there cut and paste stuff. It wasn't until I got to college that I actually got to touch programs that professionals use to create animation outside of me doing flip books and traditional things. And then I got a job immediately. Actually, I had transferred from another school, but when I went to my final school, Savannah College of Art and Design, also known as SCAT, I went to the Atlanta campus. I immediately started looking for a job. I was like, I don't want to fall behind. And I got on a World War II project with Georgia Public Broadcasting. And it was very creative, but it also, I learned a lot about the technical aspects of live action shoots and doing interviews. And a few weeks later, I'm not sure technically if it's a few weeks later or before, but I got another opportunity with Somebody Stole My Pinker's Productions working on Animal Lab. And that was with Sean Stevens. And that was a lot of fun. I got to meet some people and get my toes wet. But it wasn't until after school that I got to go on the largest production I'd ever joined, which was with Floyd County Productions on Archer. And I had never seen this show before. When I heard, oh, you want to work on Archer? I was like, oh, yes. And then I went home like, what did I just sign up for? And so I binge watched 2 seasons of Archer that weekend before I had to start on Monday. And then I got in there and I had a little notebook with all the characters' names on it so I could remember who's who as we went through animating.
That's awesome. I think it's funny that like you accepted the job and it's like, okay, Archer. Which is, I mean, I think I bring that up because I don't know if it's just me, but sometimes as a creative, I feel like I have to know everything about something before I can even be considered. And you just never know, like when somebody's going to come out and recognize your talent and be like, hey, are you interested in doing this? And maybe you don't have all the things together, but you know, it's like taking advantage of the opportunity. So I think that's amazing. And the fact that it's an Emmy award winning show.
Yes, a lot of hard work goes into that show.
Yes.
Yes.
And we thank you for your contribution to making it, being a big part of those who watch it, part of their lives, and giving them a lot of good laughs and a lot of entertainment with that. But of course, as being a Black woman in the animation world and being an animator, you often had to go into male-dominated spaces. Mm-hmm. What was it like to be, quote unquote, seen by your colleagues, and how did you navigate those spaces?
When I joined the Archer team, I was the only female animator out of like 100 and something people there. And so I was aware of it, but I have often navigated in predominantly male spaces. When I was in high school, I was in JROTC. I did athletic programs. I did breakdancing where I was one of two girls. So I was used to this kind of environment. What I wasn't used to was being the absolute only one in the department, and that never existing before. So that was different. I remember that my coworkers were putting a big effort into being accommodating. I could tell because in our private chats, sometimes they would slip with some of the conversations that they had before, and then I would see them try to adjust. And I thought, oh, I feel uncomfortable. I don't want to make the dynamic uncomfortable for other people. I want to make sure that everyone still feels like they're going to have fun and this is a good thing, a positive thing. But then on the other side of that coin, I didn't feel comfortable with some of the things that were being said. So I did want things to change. It's a difficult space to navigate because you don't want to put anyone out, but then you don't want to be put out either. There were times when I felt like efforts were being made, even though they weren't perfect efforts, they were being made to the point where I felt good. And then there were times when I heard things that made me question whether I should be documenting this moment. So yes, that was a very tricky thing to navigate.
Wow, that is definitely, and a lot of people don't realize, especially being an animator, there's not a lot of Black female animators in those spaces. So you're not only navigating being sometimes the only woman, but sometimes being the only Black woman also in those spaces too.
Conversations happen, and at some point I just sat there and was like, wow, I'm never referenced. No, people of color are not referenced in general conversation. If it's like, oh, we're bringing up an actor, it's a white male actor. We're going to talk about a show, it's predominantly white people led by white people and usually male. We're going to talk about a video game, it's the same thing. It's everything down the line. You're not a part of the conversation, but you should know this culture. And so it's really important when you're getting into that space to be aware of who is in that space before you get there and what their background is, because if they're not used to engaging with other people from different backgrounds, most likely there are going to be blind spots. I remember once we were getting a new software program and I got called in because they wanted to make sure that it worked. It was a motion capture software and they wanted to make sure it also worked with people with dark skin. And I thought that was very considerate because I had the deepest complexion in the office. So they would have me go back there and just make sure, like, oh, does it work as well? And it did. And so that was a big consideration for them of whether or not they're going to get it. So I thought that was nice. It's always a toss-up. In some spaces you see the efforts being made and it's great, and you should be very appreciative of that, especially since you're the person who's the outsider or the person who's the only different one. But then it's other times it just doesn't feel like enough. I don't know if that makes sense. Where so I'll give you an instance. I usually don't give specific instances because it's a small town. People know each other. But there was an instance where a young African-American male was killed. And as I sat there at my desk, it was really hard to focus on my work. It was difficult, especially when the verdict for the trial was read. And I remember one coworker, not directly on my team, another team, callously just saying something, and it was racist. It was blatantly, disgustingly racist, screaming, I want to scream in your face and run out of here, racist. And nothing was said. It was just like a nod, like, yeah, that's that. And I had to put my headphones on. I put on some trap. I was listening to Headstrong because I needed to be out of there. When the elections happened, people don't think about the implications of what's being said. And I had to hear about, I've never heard anyone say some slurs, but I had to hear some things that you might as well round it off with that and just make it a complete little package with a bow. But I had to hear things like that said in the eating area or walking by my desk, and I have to hear that in passing, and I don't know if it was intentional or not. And remember that, yes, I am just this one person in this space, but I'm also outside of this space. I'm helping other people get into this space. And even if I want to scream and run out or whatever, it would maybe close the door on someone who's going to come after me. And there will be people who come after me, and there have been. I've checked online and seen like, oh, there's more Black women who work here. So as much as you want to stand up for yourself sometimes, or you want to say this isn't fair that we only talk about these subjects and we don't include everyone, or this isn't fair that we always have to go to this restaurant from these specific cultures, or we have to order from this place, or we have to, when we have a movie night, it has to always be about this group. But you have to remember that it's bigger than just you. So that's something that I keep with me. I have a picture, and I think you can still see it. Can you see it in this? Let me see if I can angle it. There's right up in the corner, right there. Okay, right there. Can you see it? There's a little Black girl. A high schooler made that for me because she wants to be an animator, and it motivated her seeing me go to panels and do talks, and seeing a Black female also got her parents on board so that she could go to college and major in that. And those kind of stories and those kind of reminders keep me in spaces even when I want to scream and run out.
Yes, I can definitely relate to that, and it's really hard being in those spaces when those words are blatantly said, and it's like it's nothing. No, I'm the only person in the room. I'm the only one, whose views matter, and absolutely tough to be in those positions. So, given that you've been there for a while, what tips would you have for other women who are trying to navigate the space, as someone coming from a marginalized community, who also feel that they're not accepted?
I think it starts with your motivation. You have to really want it, because there are so many other jobs and other communities you can be in where you don't have to deal with this. Right. So unless you really, really, really want to be here for a good reason, I think it's going to be challenging. So I would write those reasons out, and then I would make an effort. Just like once you decide you're all in, go all in. Learn about the culture that you're about to join. Learn about their favorite actors, their favorite movies, their favorite video games, their favorite kinds of foods. Learn all of their stuff. And then I would say, don't be afraid to make adjustments. I know it's not the thing you tell people. You don't tell them to assimilate. That's not the hot speech. But I think it is a good idea if you're trying to get to where you're going, to recognize the vehicle that's going to take you there. So if it means that you have to wear the uniform, as they say, then wear the uniform and wear it until you get where you're going to go, and then you can do what you really want to do. When I had enough credits to my name, I was able to start my own company, especially with an EMMY under my belt. It made it a lot easier. But if I had screamed and ran out, it would have been a lot harder for me right now. So do what you need to do and research. Don't be afraid to take initiative. Oftentimes people don't approach, especially as a dark-skinned female. I've gone my whole life in this body. I know that people can be hesitant to approach. Don't be afraid to step out there and to put yourself out there over and over again, to always be the one that puts himself out there. Or maybe the only person who decides to be consistently kind and consistently nice. And it's worth it. It just is. It might be painful in that moment, because I did have some times where it was painful. But if you consider it a learning experience, or kind of like you're traveling to another country or to another region, and you're getting to have this kind of cultural experience, and you really take it for that, I think that it can be a lot more manageable. Recognize there are going to be a lot of fun moments. You are going to learn things about other people's culture that is just going to be exciting. And there are times when you can get engulfed in something that you really enjoy. Like there are things that overlapped that we enjoyed. And so that can happen too. I would definitely say find your allies quickly, as fast as possible. Try not to over-critique your allies, because they can quickly become your enemies. And to have confidence that the limitations you've been told you have might not always apply in every situation. when I was growing up, I was told I had a million limitations. This body isn't going to get me far. And, keep testing your boundaries and see if that rule is applying at all times. There were times I was told women can't do this, Black people can't do that, especially the combination of the two. And sometimes they were completely wrong. Sometimes it was absolutely opposite. They were looking for someone like me. So continue to put yourself out there, to take risks, to stay positive, and to don't be afraid to treat people in a way that they're not treating you, just because you know that it will eventually be the best situation for you. So if somebody, like I had situation, I don't want to bust this person out, but we had another person join our team who refused to speak to me for the first 3 years they were there. I would say, oh, good morning, so-and-so their name. Right there, we're the only two people here. We just got into the office. And this person got a leadership position, and it was really toxic. And I don't think my supervisor noticed that kind of treatment that I was getting from some of my coworkers. But I stayed with it. And by the 4th year, I got a good morning back, but I stayed with it because I felt that it was more important that I control who I am, because I can't control who others are going to be. So stay on your path, be ready to learn, stay flexible, stay malleable, and find people who will support you and support those people, and be friends with them, genuine relationships.
That's great advice, especially dealing with the toxicity of some of those environments. Kind of going back to the picture that you have, of one of your students that kind of motivated you to stay there. I remember when I was dealing with a similar situation, I had a supervisor who was racist. I mean, he was racist. And he was essentially continuously putting me in bad situations. And so I used to have this picture of my niece. She was like 2 or 3 at the moment, her cute, cuddly, chunky face. And like she got me through so many like difficult times where I just wanted to give up. And very much like how you said, I tried to focus myself, despite the emotions that I was having, to focus on the things that I could control. And then when it became too much, then it was like, okay, the only solution that I can see for this particular situation is for me to remove myself from it, because I'm not getting support from, others who should be advocating or correcting these negative behaviors. And so to your point, like I put myself out there, I did what I had to do. And for that particular part, it just wasn't my thing. So, I separated myself and found a better environment that was more suited to like who I am and have a more of a support system around it. So I say all of that to reinforce what you just said to our audience. Like, don't give up. Like, stick in there, put yourself, do the best that you can for yourself, and then make the adjustment if it's really not just working out. But just be confident in what you bring to the table, I think, is what I would absolutely reinforce. Yes.
Exactly.
Oh, I forgot the big star. Always study harder, try to do better. There's a phrase about a tax that people need to pay, the twice as much tax. So definitely put in the extra, because sometimes that's what it does take. And there have been times in my life where that's what it took, and times where I was doing just as much as others and it wasn't seen as that. So as much as you can, don't exhaust yourself, but take your health into consideration, but don't neglect the fact that sometimes you do have to go further than your peers.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you. That is such great advice. And even if you're not in a space that's not accepted, it can help you. A lot of that advice can help people navigate their current spaces that they're just trying to figure out, being maybe the only, Native Hawaiian, or maybe being the only Filipino in the office for that team, stuff like that. So thank you so much for that advice. Now, of course, I'm going to go back to Archer. With your work with FX Archer, of course, we just mentioned you received the Emmy for your animation on the series. How was it to not only animate the series, but also any other opportunities you had with the series.
How was it in general?
Yes.
So I know that it took about 7 years before the show won the Emmy Award. We got nominated several times. We kept losing to Family Guy and other shows like that. Just like, oh, I hate those other shows. Get the ratings in. We're looking at it so close. It was a huge endeavor on everyone's part, and we were so excited and celebrating when the show won. I was kind of in disbelief of how I felt the moment it was announced, because I thought that I would just blow up and be through the roof, like, oh, finally. But when I finally got the award, so only, I think, like 4 people actually got the statue, and everyone else got the certificate paper, because those things cost money. And it's just a lot. So we got to take pictures with the ones that were brought in, so we got to kind of share a bit. But when I got my award paper, the certificate saying for the contribution for the Emmy show, I didn't feel any better, actually. I felt exactly the same, and I actually felt, if I'm completely honest, a tiny bit disappointed, thinking about all the time we had spent trying to get this, and now I have it, and I'm like, it's a paper. It's not magic. It's not gold. It's not anything like that. It's not made of candy. I love candy. And it wasn't until maybe a few months later, my mom said, post it online. I want my friends to see it so I can share it. So I posted online, and then people were saying so many nice things. And I said, you know what? These kind words are very valuable. So even more so than the award, it's what happens after the award. It's the fact that you get some more speaking opportunities. Your clients trust you a bit more, which gives you opportunities to charge more for your projects, or even just make more money getting those projects. It's somebody seeing someone like you with an award and feeling like it's possible. So what came afterwards is just more than I initially thought in the moment. So I was really excited. While I was working on the show, I will tell you that whatever you think it is like to work on the show is what it's like. People use the same exact phrases. And how many times have I heard the word phrasing? That's how you get ants. 1,000,000 times. Every single catchphrase on the show gets used in the studio. We're not working on Archer. We live in that universe. We live in that universe until you're on the next show. So I think people who watch will probably enjoy that. You know, it's not just a job, it's a life.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, in addition to Archer, you've also done a lot of work with other outlets like NBC, Discovery Channel, MTV, San Diego Comic-Con, Georgia Public Broadcasting, so much more. What was your favorite project to work on?
You know, I loved my project with NBC. It was for 30 Rock, a Super Bowl special. It was a musical. I love all things singing, and I especially love animated musicals. So I got to work on this spot, and it was with some of the characters that I love, and I got to make them sing and break out into little mini music videos. And that was just so much fun. I watch that sometimes just because I really appreciate the songs. And one of the songs I had watched when I was growing up. So I thought, oh, God, this is just so beautiful. I have to send it to my aunt because we used to watch this soap opera together. That was definitely my favorite.
Very nice. Yes, we do love good music. Music is the keys to the soul.
And I love how it came full circle that, like you said, you had a song that you grew up with, and then you also got to work with that song in this piece. So it was like a full circle for you of having that full connection. So I love it. That is amazing. And of course, we have several comments from our audience. I don't know if you got to see it, that, Brenda was saying she loves your attitude, Allyssa.
Oh, yeah, that's my mom.
Yeah. Hello, Auntie. Even when, and Rosa said, even when you don't think it's fair, sometimes the extra is necessary. Life isn't
Mhm.
fair and will never be.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Ryan said, preach, preach. So yes, I love our interaction from our audience. But even more I love is the fact that you founded Georgia's first and largest animation and resource staffing agency, My Animation Life. What inspired you to start this business, and what can people find with My Animation Life?
When I started the company officially, it was right before leaving Archer. So maybe I think it was my birthday when I actually signed the LLC, and then so little less than a year before leaving that show. But the heart of it started earlier than that. When I was in college, I was told to think about what I wanted to do with my life. And I thought about sitting in a seat and drawing. And then I thought, but if I really could do anything and there were no limitations, I would love to have a resource center where artists could get together and get all the help they need. And I just kind of put that on the back burner, thinking that's a really big endeavor. My senior year, I had a professor who was really awesome. He was our portfolio teacher, and we got to just tell stories about the industry and talk all class. We never had homework. I had so much fun. And then 2 weeks before it was time for the class to be over, he said, "Oh, yeah, let me open up the syllabus. We probably should do something in here." And we had to do everything in the syllabus. We had to make a website, a business card, contact 3 potential employers and get a response for them. We had to find jobs, build our bio, and like the whole mapping out for our career had to happen in 2 weeks instead of the entire quarter, which we should have been spending our time doing. So I started freaking out, thinking, I don't know anything. I could barely use the internet. I was struggling so hard. I came from military bases and small towns, and my family was strict about me using the internet. So I wasn't really using it until I got into college. I was not in good shape, and I tried to lean on my peers and say like, oh, I was looking for animation studios in Georgia. I got this small like 12 studio list. Some of them are only one person. Some of them aren't open anymore. And I asked, like, what did you find? And I would get the vaguest answers, like, oh, I looked, I looked on online too, and whatever you found online is probably what I found online. I'd say, well, what jobs are you applying to? I need to have a list of jobs too. Maybe we can like share our list and our search, because it doesn't mean that we're going for the same jobs. Oh, I would just keep looking and you'll probably find exactly what you're looking for. It was driving me insane. I thought these people were my friends. Don't you want me to succeed? Don't we want everyone to succeed? It was this scarcity mindset. And I got so frustrated. I remember sitting down in my chair at the computer lab, just like near tears. I don't even know if I actually did cry. I was kind of a crybaby. But I thought, when I find out this information, I am going to make a huge database and I'm going to put it online for free, and no one's going to struggle with the simplest thing of like, where's a job, or what company is there, or who's hiring. These are elementary level problems. My skill level is what you should be competing against. My creativity, my stories, not who knows what companies out there. So I put it on the back burner again. I just kept throughout the years finding new studios and just on the side making a map. And on the side, collecting venues that I knew hosted animation events, connecting with people, networking, building these relationships with people who did it, and keeping a list. And the same thing with the classified listing. I would find out who posts jobs, where jobs being posted, what kind of keywords do I need to have, and I would start putting it together. And then the year before leaving Archer, I got that kick. It was inside of me of, you have to start this business now. Stop waiting. It doesn't have to be perfect. Start when it's not perfect. Start when it's ugly. And so I put a page together, and everything was free. I actually started it right here in my dining room. I had a table here with some friends, and all we did was talk about what opportunities we all knew. So the first My Animation Life meeting was just my friends together, and we all went around sharing every opportunity we knew, every resource we knew for the animation industry. And we all took notes. And it was so great. So next time we have a meeting, we're going to bring more resources. We are all committed to studying. We're all committed to networking. We can't be everywhere all the time. And they would also support me in starting the database. When I left the studio, for Archer and stuff, and I was telling some people who were more professional about it, a lot of them were thinking it was a horrible idea. I should just go try to find a job. And I kept getting that, like, you don't know anything about business. You don't know anything about doing this stuff. This town doesn't work like that. It was a lot. And I still had the drive inside of me. I was going to do that. And I decided I was not going to look for another job. And I told my mother, I called her because I knew my family would be worried, thinking, what are you going to do? But I called my mom. I said, Mom, I'm not going to get a job. I'm going to start my own company. And she's like, you go, girl. Yeah, go ahead and start that company. I feel good about it. And she was incredibly ecstatic and so supportive. And I thank her for that. She's always been very supportive throughout my career. And so I had some highs and some lows. I had my savings, which is good. I never went into debt. That's one thing I want to tell you. I want to actually do something. I was going to pitch it for DragonCon. I don't know if it'll go through clearance, but I wanted to talk about going from making no money to making well over 6 figures in my company. And during the pandemic, I think within a 6-month span is where I went from like 0 to over 100,000 in 6 months during the pandemic. But when I first started out, I was still figuring out business, negotiations. I had people calling me from California and from New York asking me all these questions and about documents I'd never heard of. I had to learn about law. I fell in love with contract law. And I struggled to find mentorship because there wasn't something like this. So it being the first and all that, it's a pro and a con in the same sentence. The pro is that, yay, you get that flag and you get to plant it. And the con is like, who's going to help you know how to navigate this terrain? So I started reaching out to other recruiters who recruited in different industries, people who did consultations, people who did employment services, just trying to patchwork quilt what I did together so I could find some sort of guidance into how I should go. And I did a lot of trial and error. If anyone remembers the first 2 or 3 years of my animation life, we did everything. We did workshops, classes, tutorials, pop-up events. We went to schools. We did podcasts, presentations. I have dressed up before. We did conventions. We have done so many things, and it has streamlined us now into done-for-you services. So we complete animations for people. Sometimes they just need an artist to fill in a space, and we do that. And sometimes they need the entire thing taken care of, and we do that too. And for the artist side, it's mostly educational stuff. So preparing you to get a job, and hopefully we can staff you on a project the second you're prepared, and giving resources out. I do make it our mission to also give back. Right now, we're teaching 15 classes in Compton, Los Angeles. So teaching students who otherwise would not have access to people in the industry. So we still have that give back mentality. And of course, the map and classified listings and those kind of free resources are still there, but now it's a staple. Now there's no going back. Now it doesn't matter if you're in high school or in college or you're out of school, you never went to school. If you're wondering what studios are here in Georgia, what jobs are being posted, what events are happening, you have access to it. You don't have to deal with vague answers. So that was my biggest push, was the biggest obstacle in front of an artist should never be something so basic.
I love it. And yes, we will add that to the repertoire. I'll talk to you afterwards. We'll make that happen with the virtual content for DragonCon. So we'll talk afterwards.
Yes. Mm-hmm. As Ryan said, this is incredible, Allyssa. I am very, very impressed right now by not just what you have done, but also the approach and the mindset you had towards like the give back. A lot of people, our society sadly wants to monetize every single thing, right? But there are people who really just, like you said, need the basics. And we really shouldn't have to pay ridiculous amounts of money to like get some help and some mentorship, and that community give back. It's what we're all about here at the podcast. I love it.
I was thinking about that with a friend the other day, and she said, well, it's probably because you're a Black woman. That's probably why, because statistically, Black women are more likely to start community organizations. And especially with these kind of drives, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but please look at them. They are very high at the likelihood we are to go into entrepreneurship, and especially community-based ones. And so I think it's fitting that you get a Black woman in the animation space and that this is what is going to happen.
Absolutely. Definitely. So in your, I love that you work with the artists and the creators. We have a lot of folks who are similar to that on our show here. And many of them, have their IP, whether it be their comic books, stories, art. And some of them have aspirations to, have their work turned into animated series or live action film. But I mean, you of all people know that it's not always as easier said than done. What are some ground truth realities that creators should expect to have in place before they attempt to pitch their IP ideas to something like My Animation Life or even larger media companies?
Well, pitching to us is not a huge deal, because when you pitch to My Animation Life, it's for us to help you strengthen it to go to another network. So for the projects that we take on, people come in and sometimes they have everything. They just need a few artists, and sometimes they don't know where they're going. They don't even have a script yet. They just have an idea. When they're pitching to another network, I often say just have the bare bones of what you need. Sometimes people think they need to create the entire universe and have it on paper and everything's finalized and do a 20-minute fully animated thing. You don't have to do that. A lot of times you can get away with an animatic. And even if you're trying to crowdfund and get stuff from like Kickstarter or any of those other platforms, a lot of times you can get away with an animatic. So you don't have to spend a lot of money. And a little assistance with the writing and with some of the visuals can go a long way. I would definitely get your budget together as best you can up front. It's okay to trickle start and to, I can only afford to do the script right now. I can only afford to do the storyboard right now, and to use that as your launching tool. But once you decide you're going to do animation, it's really hard to go back and do several passes to make it look better. You kind of have to have your budget done. You can do maybe like 1 minute here and another minute there, but you can't change the level and the quality of the animation by throwing more money at it. So if you have $100, you're going to get $100 quality animation. But if you have $150 and you spend $100 on it, throwing $50 at it at the end is not going to make it look better. So I would say be mindful of your budget. Work with a consultant. Even if it's not with My Animation Life and our consulting, work with somebody who can consult you through the entire process, because that will save you much more money than you paid to get the consultation.
Gotcha. Okay. So for someone like me who is new to the lingo of this part of the industry, what is an animatic?
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
An animatic is a storyboard put to time. So think about a storyboard, which kind of looks like a comic book. The biggest difference is that a comic book can go out of bounds, and a storyboard shows you the exact frame of the screen. So it tells you exactly what's going to be seen on camera at all times. So an animatic takes every frame out of every shot or drawing that the storyboard has and puts them on the frame it needs to be for the time. So it says shot 1 is going to play at 0 seconds, and shot 2 at 2 minutes, shot 3 at 7 minutes, and then you play it and you're like, I think it'd be funnier if this shot happened earlier, or we just removed it. And you can make all that kind of editing. Sometimes animatics get really detailed, and instead of just showing you big cuts, it can show you sometimes movements, like this is when the hand punches, or sometimes it's almost semi-animation. I think storyboarders are being asked to do a little bit more than they traditionally did, so it is becoming more and more advanced. You can get pretty fancy with your storyboard, but when you're pitching, you don't always have to have a sample of your work. And if you do want to have a sample, it can be a short sample. You can have mostly an animatic and then just a little blip of your favorite part that's going to be animated.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, this is good to know. Let's see. So, in the work that you've done with your company or with Archer, and your experience in the industry, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you've seen creators make when pitching or seeking
Mm.
investors into their IP?
So there's oversharing. Sometimes people come on, public spaces and they tell the whole thing, or they bring artists on, or anyone on, maybe a writer or a producer, and they don't have them sign contracts or NDAs. And then somebody creates something and says, I want it back now. And now a part of your IP is missing, or you can't use it anymore. Or they send things off to people. Oh my gosh, in recruiting, sometimes people will just send you their pitch. And I'm like, no, don't do that. It's not safe for either of us. So I see that. I often see people finalizing their drawings before sending it off. So they will render it. I say render it to death. So they'll have it fully colored, shadow, everything. And not just for one thing, everything in the world is completely done. And unless you have a relationship with that network, or you really know that this is what they're looking for, what you send to them is going to have some changes. And when you build that emotional attachment to it, or when you show them something that they can't envision changing a little bit because it's so finalized, it can hurt you. Also, putting people on the project that don't have the best reputation. A lot of times when people are pitching, they're creating teams.
Yes.
And you're not just pitching your project. A great idea is a dime a dozen. Everyone's got
Yes.
great ideas. They're all over the place. What people don't have is the ability to finish it, and to finish it on time and on budget. So making sure that whoever you bring on, your fancy people that are going to help you get the project greenlit, are all people that you have well vetted, and they have their credentials on display and together. It'd be great if you had a dream team of people who were well known in the industry, so that you're leveraging their reputation to help you get this greenlit. Those are just some of the biggest things. Oh, and one thing is assuming that their idea is going to be $1 million idea, and that everyone should work for no money, because not only does that create an issue when you get the question you're going to get, which is, how much is this going to cost if we go to production? You don't know. You haven't been paying people. You don't even know what they would have charged. So you don't know if it's viable. And two, the likelihood of it getting greenlit is just lower than the likelihood of it not getting greenlit, because most ideas are not greenlit. Not because you don't have a great idea, just because there's a million factors that go in: timing, the market, all of that. So do your research on the network, what audiences you want. Don't just go for the glamorous ones. Don't just say, I want to pitch it to Cartoon Network. You know, you can pitch it to a million other places, even in other countries. You can put it in different formats. It doesn't have to be that one thing that you've only seen. So if you have an idea, it can be a million things. It can go into books. It can go into games. It can go into school systems for educational platforms. It can go to so many things. Don't get stuck on the one thing you know about. And that's why I say also talk to a consultant, because they'll give you more options.
Y'all, that was just a masterclass. So if you do not book this woman for some consulting services,
Thank you.
I'm just saying.
Yes,
saying.
exactly. I mean,
Thank you,
don't
sis.
sleep on this. That's why the Moana Nui podcast wanted to bring this before you with the creators. I know we have people in the audience that are going to school that want to go into animation, want to do drawing. This is the stuff you need to know. And definitely, if you're in the Georgia market, or if you're in anywhere else in the country, definitely reach out to My Animation Life, because you just got some nuggets that you probably didn't put a pulse on, and everything else. And I know Allyssa can go so much deeper than this and everything. Now, Allyssa, what are some tips you can provide to increase creators' chances of success?
Step one, define success for you. Oftentimes, you will get to the place you're trying to go and not realize you're there or that you even wanted it in the first place just a few months ago. So get really clear on what you want. There have been times where I really wanted something and then I got it and I was like, oh, I don't want it anymore. I don't feel like I'm successful. And technically I am because I got that thing. So if you don't know 100% what kind of things you want to work on, you want to do, expose yourself to it. In animation, there are so many opportunities. It's not just television, it's not just movies, it's not just educational programs, it's not just whiteboards and presentations, it's medical, it's the government, it's tech, it's military. It is the highest paying animation job, which is forensic animation. So when people get murdered, you get to do reenactments, highest paying. You're trying to be successful. There you go. So define success for yourself. Is it having your credit on television, the lowest paying? As far as the types go, unless you're working independently, is it for you to be able to sustain your life, be in one area, not travel so much, maybe have a higher income? That might be government, business, tech, startup companies, inventions, all of that. So just think about what you want your life to look like, what really makes it considered successful to you, and start experimenting. Meet people who do that. Figure out what their days look like. What are things they don't like about it or that they do like, and see if any of that resonates with you. And then 2, do your homework with what people are looking for. You can work for yourself, and that's a whole nother situation when we talk about entrepreneurship. But if you plan on working for others, you need to do your research on what they're looking for. You can go directly to a job post and see what skills they're going to be asking of you. They might not say, oh, you need to know the 12 principles of animation. You need to know physics. You need to know. They're not going to say all of that. They'll just say know how to animate. And you're going to have to dig deeper and figure out what that means. Maybe connecting with someone in the company and figuring out foundationally what skills are they looking for. They're also going to tell you what kind of personality traits you're going to need, what kind of content you'll be working on. That's something to think about as well. What do you want your portfolio to look like in the next 5 years? Do you want it to be full of kids show stuff? Do you want it to be full of explainer videos? If you don't care what it looks like, then that gives you a lot more freedom to work wherever you want. But if you do care and you are going somewhere further with your portfolio, and it's really important to have certain things in it, figure out which companies do that. And don't just focus on one company. Please don't. I did that when I went into college. I wanted to work for Caspi Kloops, and in my 3rd year, they closed down. So don't do that. Do not focus on one studio. Focus on multiple studios that are in a similar vein, and then start tailoring your work towards that. Think about, is this the same kind of thing you want to draw, you want to work on? Are you okay with that? I always say, figure out consultations, like seek those people out for guidance. Seek out the people who are already in those companies, in those jobs. Seek out people who work in employment services. If you're going to a college, there is a high likelihood that you have an employment services team that works there. Sometimes smaller colleges, it's the admissions teams doing double duty, or it's the professors doing double duty. But there are most likely resources to help you get a job. Tap into those. If you do not go into school and you're doing online learning with YouTube videos or with Skillshare or with LinkedIn Learning, which used to be lynda.com, reach out to those people who teach the classes. Just because you're on YouTube and you haven't paid to get a degree doesn't mean the YouTuber who made that video isn't interested in seeing your portfolio or your application of their tutorial into your project. That is a great way to build a teacher-student relationship and to get insights on ways you can improve and also opportunities in the industry. Work on networking. That is huge. Unfortunately, most jobs are not posted online. I think over 80% are not posted online. In the creative field, it's closer to 90%. So opportunities that are happening in bulk, you're seeing this many of them. And those opportunities you're seeing are highly competitive. People are applying to those. You're one of how many in a stack. And a lot of times, even those jobs go to people that happen to know someone at the studio or build rapport with them. So go ahead, start your networking now. Start while you're in high school. Start your first year of college when you have nothing to ask for. The best time to build a networking relationship is when you don't want anything from them.
Yes.
So go ahead, get on LinkedIn, create your portfolio and your bio as best you can. Use what you have, even if it's ugly. Put your ugly stuff out there and start meeting people. And you don't have to ask them for critiques and feedback and all that. You can just talk to them and get their story, this kind of like casual interview. Because when you start getting really heavy, then you probably should pay them a consultation fee. But I say those things are probably your best starting points, is figuring out clarity, what defines success for you, and then 2, doing your research on what these jobs look like and what they're requiring, and then 3, connecting with people and getting these kind of mentorship or consultations, this kind of feedback into how you can get in the industry.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Everybody get you need your church fan, because Allyssa just came with all the the
tea.
facts and all. Now, of course, you mentioned about like our high school students and college students. Do My Animation Life have partnerships with certain colleges or schools, or if there's a advisor or someone would like to have their students to partner with your your company, how can they make that happen? Or if there's a school already established, what schools are established working with you that people can look into?
So we actually have on our map a list of all the universities that teach animation. So you can go on the My Animation Life map in the resource section, and it'll pull up and it'll show you which one's closest to your house, and it'll tell you more about what that school offers. And I would definitely call in. The thing is, we do need to update it now with this pandemic, because some programs have gone under, but a lot of programs have popped up, and a lot of them are virtual. And it's difficult to track those virtual ones because they're in and out. They have loose terms and loose timing. If a school wanted to partner with us to do portfolio reviews and critiques and do consultations, we would love to do that. It's just an email, sending that to our online system. If you just go to the website, it'll give you a form to contact us. That will be enough to get that initiated. If it was a student or somebody on the outside, maybe you're not in school, you don't have access to career advisors from your university, you can still reach out and just as casual as ever say, hey, my name's Jake, my name's Jeremy, my name's Sarah, whatever it is, and I'm in this situation. I'd like to talk to someone more about what I can do. That's all it has to be, one sentence. And then we'll get back to you with some more information, and then we go start the dialogue there to figure out, well, do you actually need a consultation, or you just need a mentor? Do you need somebody like an accountability buddy? Do you need maybe just some links to some sites to start you off? So I think just starting off with a casual sentence is good enough.
And I think that is usually the biggest and hardest step for people, is knowing how to make that approach and to ask, because so many of us, especially within the BIPOC community, is told to weather the storms ourselves and not lean in. But by just asking that one question, you can find who you can lean in with. And those that, like you said, may find out you just need a mentor to help you, guide you. You may need, a sponsor, someone that can be your champion and to help advocate for you on your behalf. Or like you said, you may need that consultation. And so all our creatives out there, definitely, many of you, as Moana said, you're probably looking into that, doing animation or some form. Please definitely reach out to myanimationlife.com to reach out, send that one sentence to them to see about how they can work with you, and definitely bring your vision to life and help you understand how to make your vision come to life if you need more of a roadmap to get there. So I love it. I love it. Now, as we're wrapping up towards the end of the hour, of course, it always goes by fast. Allyssa, please, can you tell people how they can follow you or My Animation Life to stay connected, know what's coming up, what events you have coming up, and that way they can stay connected of what's coming down the pike?
So we are working on getting better at keeping everyone informed. I apologize to anyone who's been on our social media right now. We actually have 4 films that we're working on, and we've been pumping them out. This is an animation boom. So finding talent, getting them all lined up, working with clients, getting other ones. It's a lot. We actually just graduated some new project managers. So if you're watching, congratulations to you. You now are part of the staff team, and that is to help us take on even more projects. So if you are interested in connecting with us to get your project done, so we can put some artists with you, or if you're an artist wanting to get on some of these projects, you can go to myanimationlife.com. There is a contact form there. Please use the form because it goes to all our email accounts. You can email me directly with Allyssa at myanimationlife.com. That's ALLYSSA at symbol myanimationlife.com. And that's where you can get me directly. But I do encourage you to use the form because then that blasts out to everyone on the team.
Awesome. So thank you so much for that.
Yes.
And brought so much value on this show. So
yes,
we really appreciate
exactly. It. So I know a lot of y'all are probably writing some major notes. And also we appreciate, Allyssa, for you taking the time out to come be a part of our show. We know you have a busy schedule. You have just this plethora of knowledge, and definitely be able to look at it. Once we coordinate this for DragonCon, we will let our audience know so you can attend that virtual content to get even more information from her about this life. And of course, working with animators so you can see how it can work within your world. Or if you have a loved one or a student that's out there that want to do this, you can learn more of how to make this dream come true for yourself. So we thank you so much for coming on the show. And
I was just going to say thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. And Moana, of course, one of the things we do at the end of our show, for all of our audience members that engage, we put you in a giveaway for commenting and everything. So Moana, can you go ahead and do our drawing to see who's our lucky winner for the Moana Nui prize pack? Ryan Robinson, congratulations. So definitely reach out to the Moana Nui on Facebook or either to Moana herself and with your contact information so she can send you your prize pack of awesome goodies on behalf of the Moana Nui podcast. To thank you for being a part of today's show and interacting with our guests and within the comments itself. So thank you so much. Yeah. And any last words you would like to give our audience, Allyssa?
Yes, I will tell you, I am actually transitioning to a different, a network. I'm teaming up with another network, and it has been a trying time as I try to train people and try to keep everything functioning as it should as I make this transition. And I want to share this with you. It is it's a motivational quote that I say to myself all the time. And I think it was by Jim Rohn. And it's, you can have more than you've ever had because you can be more than you've ever been. And that reminds me every single day that it doesn't matter what is in front of me. I can reach for it. I can achieve that thing, not because, oh, I'm lucky or because cards have fallen into place, because the person I need to be to get that thing is achievable. Because I can change me. That means I can go further than I've ever been.
I love that.
Yes, definitely. That is definitely a quote to keep close to your heart and keep you motivated and push through for that dream.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So once again, Allyssa, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate you sharing your time and your expertise with our audience. And we wish you all the best in your new endeavors. We can't wait to see what's next for you.
It's big. It's pretty big.
Yes. So we can't. When you can talk about it, contact us at the Moana Nui podcast. We'll have you back on. That way you can announce to the audience so they know when and where to tune in to see this major thing that you're working on and who you're working with. And that way they can be just excited as we gonna be when we hear about it.
Absolutely.
Great. I'll make sure to do that.
Awesome. Well, we thank you so much. We want to be very cautious of your time and be very respectful of your time also. So we thank you again for being part of the show. And everyone, please, once again, follow My Animation Live on their social media. But also, if you are interested in working with them, or you have a loved one that is in high school or college that's looking to be in this field, definitely have them to go right to the contact field and reach out to them and see how we can help navigate them on the path for their success, because uh, Allyssa is literally our hidden figure. She navigated a space and made a path, and with her company, made a way for so many that you can take advantage of, and you have this now option that wasn't there before. So we thank you so much for all you've done, and not only with your company, but all the animation that you have done to entertain us, to make us laugh, and to make us smile.
Great. Thank you.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Please tune in on next Thursday, July 29th at our 7 o'clock slot. As if you haven't tuned in before, on the last Thursday every month, we have Rain Talks, which we have her come in to talk about different things that may help with the BIPOC community for mental health situations and things like that, because we're trying to break the stigma of getting help and having someone to talk to. So her topic for the 29th will be on grief. So if you've been impacted by the death of a loved one, or even a loss of a relationship, whether it's a friend, family member, or such, this may be a great topic for you to tune in and to hear about and find how to navigate your emotions and what you're going through to be a better person as you're going through all that. And then at our 8:30 p.m. slot on Thursday, we will have our microaggressions panel. We will be talking about what microaggressions are, how BIPOC and people are navigating with these microaggressions, and how it affects. And basically, microaggressions, the best way to describe it is death by 1,000 cuts. So definitely tune in on our 8:30 p.m. slot. And once again, everybody, thank you so much for being part of tonight's show, and have a great weekend. Bye, everyone.